clean answer for a giant early on in the game. They can stall it out with a Doomsayer for a little while, but the deck is not playing Polymorph, so they'd be looking for like random generation, for example, to try and find them an answer.
No
for
voodoo
it.
dolls either in the deck or anything for the spot removal?
Nope.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do, so I'm just going to keep saying that because it's true. We are going to go into game number 1, though. As we said, it is the Quest Mage versus the Even Lock, and something I want to, maybe not for this game, because we'll be looking at how this Mage is played, but in general, I want to keep an eye on how the teams act on camera, and because they are facing each other for a start, and also Team Norway, more than any other team I've heard, have talked a lot about, oh yeah, they're just giving away information by how they're reacting. They're either look excited or look miserable, or look deep in thought about a turn, which you can make some level of read of what their hand consists of. If you're taking a lot of time over any singular turn, it generally means there are more options to consider. Sol's confused face. I'm going to also cast Sol's reactions.
Yeah, straight away, I'm just like trying to figure out how many options you have here, like whether there was ever any merit to like start playing tempo before you played your quest on turn 1, because you do have like a Firefly curve that you can go with. But they were rewarded on the turn 1 quest by picking up Primordial Glyph on turn 2, which now gives them a nice cheap option on the follow-up. And Explosive Runes is a good option that they can use to at least start to contest a big minion that comes down on turn 4. Makes it or turn 3 even, sorry, in case of Even Lock. Makes it a lot more easy to then deal with after the fact.
Yeah, and look at this tempo as well. Now it can be Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Firefly, and the Explosive Ruin all in one turn.
But that's your Apprentice, Raven. You need these things.
Tempo, kill them.
I just don't know.
I'm just saying, the way I'm going to choose to talk about this matchup is just say what the best singular play on average every single turn is.
That would be a dramatic improvement from your usual.
Hey!
Yeah, that was too easy. I had to. It's early, guys, but we're starting out hot.
You're sick, so I'll let you off this once, Sol. That's you one, though. That's it for the whole day. You've used it.
Damn.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know that was the rules. I would have thought of a better one.
Oh, I love making up rules on the spot. It's great.
So if they develop 1 damage here at least and then play the Explosive Runes, they then have the ability to take care of a giant on the following turn, right? Just by trading in the small minion and then pinging it off. They can also choose to go with just both tokens and then trade them both in and not have to restrict themselves to pinging on the following turn, which I kind of like more because with the double AI hand, you really want to be casting one of those AIs on the following turn.
Yep, I like this overall. And now we have to consider that there are multiple secrets that make this unfun. There's the rune, and then there's also mirror entity.
Yep.
Just is awkward because then the mage or Team China will be able to attack with their giant anyway. So then you get the odd, the weird like Warlock versus Warlock matchups we discussed yesterday, where whoever has initiative with their attacking giant is way further ahead than the other team.
Yeah, slightly different here because the mage doesn't really have like the package to back that up, right? Be it Faceless Manipulator or Cube or just another big minion to slam alongside it. If it was Mirror Entity, the 8/8s would just end up trading with each other.
Right, but it's still similar to the runes, acts like removal, right? Which is the key part. We do see it's the runes. I don't think there was a big enough reason to not play the giant. If you play anything else, you continually delay the giant anyway.
Right. There is that AI that they gave themselves the freedom to play by setting up this exact interaction. 6 damage from the runes, front load 2 on the board with the Firefly. That was a very deliberate sequence from China, and you can see by how quickly they followed it up, right? There was no need for any great discussion from the team because, oh, okay, Norway did the thing we expected them to do. We will continue with our game plan.
Yeah, there were no curveballs this early in the game, at least. But now Norway have to go back to saying, okay, what's the next turn? And double 2-drop seems reasonable to me. Does prot that Spellstone as well.
A yawn from Hunter Ace there. It was a late finish last night, has to be said, and Hunter Ace and Norway
for one of us
were involved all the way. All right. Have I mentioned that I'm sick? I don't like to bring it up, you know, but if you'd like to send some sympathy my way, greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Because you have none to send to anyone else, Sol.
No.
Shimmering Tempest is going to be able to add a random spell, which is the quest condition that you need to be able to cast spells that are not from your deck, or cards that are not from your deck.
No, it's spells.
Oh yeah, I keep thinking of Leyline as the general quest, which...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. It's early and Sol's sick.
All right, well, Flame Strike coming off the one of the first random rolls for China is going to be that extra piece of removal because again, I was trying to break down like all the various ways this matchup could play out, and you looked at it like potentially in terms of big spell mage versus even lock, where for a portion of time there was a belief that the amount of removal in big spell mage just lined up against enough of the threats in even lock that you could just run them out of stuff and leave them pretty helpless. But there really isn't, as discussed, those voodoo dolls, those polymorphs, those key interactions to be able to get that done. So you are looking for a lot of help off your random generation, and Flamestrike is definitely way up there in terms of things that can end up being helpful.
Yeah, and this turn is very interesting to me as well, because the Artificers are just played onto the board and gaining 2, maybe 3, 4 armor based on what this glyph is.
Yeah.
And that's like a very low impact one. You know, you normally actually want, you know, Flame Strike or, you know, the big AoE spells to get like 14 armor in a turn if you're going to play both of them.
1 out of 6 right now. Simulacrum in hand, which of course does pair nicely with that Sorcerer's Apprentice in the old school version of this deck, Quest Mage Classic. Spellbender, not really going to have a huge impact. It's not like, you know, Spellstone will get hit by it if they target a minion, which of course they will, but it's not like China really have key minions that need protecting with a Spellbender outside of, let's say, Archmage Antonidas himself.
Yeah. Or maybe it won't happen now, but in some situations it could protect an Artificer to maybe get 1 extra turn to gain armor. But even then, it's often not the biggest deal when you're dealing with cards like Infernal Giants, for example, when they maybe a tad extra armor doesn't make too much of an impact in the game's outcome. And now, is this enough? This is the old Freeze Mage question of when is the damage enough to warrant a Nova, especially when you don't have a Doomsayer to pair with it? Because they have to expect Doomsayers are going to be either be silenced a lot of the time or spellstoned at some points. Maybe that's the play. Nova Doomsayer, and then you have the Spellbender to actually block the Spellstone.
Flamestrike, a little unusual there coming out. Didn't really deal with the majority of the threat on the board, which was the 4-6 and the 6-6 as it started. There's still just another 10 damage chunking in here from Norway. But I think what that Flamestrike was about, less than removal, was just, hey, this was actually a randomly generated card in our hand. We want to cast this at some point, so let's just get that 7 mana spent while we can, where we still have time in the game.
Also, as well, it probably signals potentially, because is there Blizzard in this? I have to keep asking because I just don't know what's in this deck. There's no Blizzard, right? Because if it was a general sort of control mage style, you could threaten Blizzard by doing a play like this.
Right.
But it just isn't there. The tools are actually kind of nuts. Now Shroomburrow is going to be able to heal up this Infernal. It's not like Team Norway are bothered about their own health total in any real form right now.
Yep.
You see this, they're just putting as many minions onto the board to put as much pressure on as possible, and this might just have to be a Frost Nova this turn.
That Firefly pickup now, of course, the upgrade effect, or sorry, the upgrade condition on Mage Spellstone, some of you might not know because it doesn't really get played. It's playing elementals that you need to upgrade the Spellstone. So that's the reason for these Fireflies being in the deck, because, as mentioned, the quest comes down to spells that did not start in your hand. So the token doesn't count. It just helps you to upgrade that Spellstone and get pretty crazy outcomes. Simulacrum and Primordial Glyph have both been picked up here off random effects, and they're really, really strong, useful cards for the endgame game plan of China.
Yeah, as you can see, Simulacrum there, creating a duplicate of the Sorcerer's Apprentice in hand. Once you play those and you have cards like Primordial Glyph, you can just complete the quest in 1 turn.
Yep.
Like, normally pretty easily. It's Molten Reflection as well. So China are piecing together a way to win, but how much stall do they even have left now? Because right now it is 0.
1 Frost Nova down, only 1 remaining in the deck. Just to, again, add a little bit more context to this deck. Some of the other cards we haven't really talked about yet. The Draw Engine, Stargazer Luna and Alineth are both featured in this deck. That's why you see NTR holding on to this Ooze for so long on the left-hand side. Even though he's been trying to aggressively develop minions and put on pressure, that Ooze is way too important to be able to stop China from drawing through, because essentially, remember, they have 1 card in their deck in Archmage Antonidas, which they have to draw. If they don't, their deck does nothing.
Yeah. Again, I just don't know. So is my answer. The double Sorcerer's Apprentice is going to come down, though, and that Glyph's going to get cooking. Ooh. I wanted the Book of Wonders.
Just like you.
Oh, wow.
China are just going now. They have no way to stop this pressure, so they're just having to dig as hard as they can in the deck, looking for that Antonidas, as I mentioned exactly. Didn't find it. Now the quest completion does go off, cheap enough to play here as well.
They might just commit, take their extra turn and say, okay, heart of the cards moment right now if they commit to this turn. And there is a lot of discussion there, but they are just going to time warp and say, right, let's just go. Bear in mind what you need to remember with the additional turn is the minions can attack, which is the important part.
Yeah, and actually, going back a turn, as I was just kind of breaking down and adding context, Norway actually made a very, very smart play. You started talking about these Sun Fury protectors just, you know, being 2/3s being developed on the board. Those taunts that they've been making on the last couple of turns are very deliberate to stop this exact situation being so catastrophic for them. Because you can see without that 8/8 taunt in the way, these 3 apprentices are pushing 9, that's 10, 11, 12, and then there's just fireballs and frostbolts in hand that can push through and potentially win the game without even Antonidas.
And that's Nova again from the random spell generation, so there is some level of stall, and yeah...
It doesn't matter, though. If they Hellfire this board now, Norway, then the game is just over, surely, as long as they have enough health to survive the Firebolt Frostbolt in hand.
They've got a Hooked Reaver, a Fireball, and a Frostbolt. Maybe they can do this. Can they Frostbolt themselves to get a Hooked Reaver 7/7?
Do you have to ping or, yeah, Shooting Star your own minions to dig this 1 extra card, look for Arcane Intellect of the random generation? Or Project again to draw 2 more?
No. Okay, that's a good one. Insta-kill the minion, and that's the 8/8 taunt, so at least this is levels of damage that China can push through right now.
And then, the Hooked Reaver as well with this Molten Reflection now can actually put a huge amount of damage into play. That's an incredible catch at the last second from China.
What is this game?
Not Frostbolt to push damage, Frostbolt themselves in the face to get themselves down below 15 and generate 2 7/7s in play. That's so smart because it shuts down the exact situation that I was talking about where it doesn't matter if China could survive with the Frost Nova. If this board got hellfired and they lost their apprentices, the game was over. But now China have found an alternate win condition with just 2 Hooked Reavers in play.
Juggling multiple random effects.
I wasn't expecting to talk that much all day.
I called the Frostbolt to face, come on.
Yeah.
That happened. But yeah, the Molten Reflection as well is absolutely huge, and I kind of just want to see what happens, to be completely honest. This is nuts, and there are still, they're going to get at least 1 more turn to see what they can push here. There's 7 damage from the 1 surviving Hooked Reaver for China, and there's Aluneth. So now there can be Fireball trade Aluneth? Because I don't think you can rely on a Tar Creeper instead because of silences.
Oh, Raven, the Spellbender's still in play as well. It just didn't proc because the board was full on the previous turn.
I wonder if they even consider that.
China could have potentially played around that as well, right? They had a...
Traded off a minion.
Like 1/2s. They had the Flame Elemental.
Yeah.
That was, you saw at the end of China's turn how much of a huge scramble that was, though, to get something done. And I have to say, they did very well to make a win condition, but you can see it wasn't perfect because the threat of that Spellbender neutralized by the fact that what's the token called? You know these things. What's the thing that's appeared called?
The Flame Elemental?
No, the thing that comes when you Spellbender.
Spellbenderoo.
Okay, well, yeah, the 1/3 did not have room to appear on the board because of the full board.
It's a pretty niche question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I failed, but it's pretty niche. Okay, they are going for Tar Creeper, holding the Fireball and just piling on the pressure.
Sorry, I just realized there was a whole other level to that as well, because Norway's sequencing, they used the Spellstone first before they cast the Hellfire, because if they ruled out all of the other secrets, they knew it was Spellbender, so they actually recognized that situation and executed the sequencing in the right order.
It's a pretty good game of Hearthstone.
This is a great game. I'm enjoying this.
Wait.
Oh, it's just called Spellbender. The more you know.
I was close. Wait, did they didn't know it was Spellbender, right?
Did they not?
Well, they just missed lethal, didn't they? Double Spellbreaker?
Oh, yeah.
Hit him for 11?
Good point.
had to sit for a minute and double count 11 there because I was like, this works, right? So what? I wonder what they didn't test for.
Pretty sure they tested barrier. They've been hitting face all game. They tested playing minions, obviously. So, you know, Frozen Clone, Mirror Entity, and Explosive Runes is out.
Oh, what about they didn't hit face, did they? So Vaporize.
I feel like there's been a lot of face hitting.
Oh, maybe. There was a Frostbolt to their own face, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in the meantime, China are going digging now with the Stargazer Luna. Pick up a Frostbolt to go alongside that Fireball.
That's 12 damage available right now. They're going to keep drawing.
Behold the tools of creation.
You play it anyway, right?
Yeah, you just got to keep going. You need answers.
The tools of creation.
There's the Frost Nova.
Okay. The game is still on.
Oh my.
Behold the tools of creation.
And now again, double Spellbreaker is available. Like they could Spellbreaker one of their own minions and Spellbreaker the Tar Creeper to push damage, but it's nowhere near enough.
6, yeah. Obviously, if you Spellbreaker the Hooked Reaver, it does actually go down to 4, which means that it's actually less impactful.
I wonder.
And they've used both Spellstones, right?
Yep.
They don't have Gul'dan to get some health, and they, at this point, they should know what's left in the hand because there are no randomly generated cards left if they've been tracking that well. So they know Antonidas 100% because that's just a card you're not going to forget.
Yep.
Doomsday is pretty reasonable.
The Fireball's random.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because the Flame Geyser's natural, right?
I would presume so,
I'm pretty sure it's
there
natural.
are 2 copies of Flame Geyser in the deck. So let's just assume so.
Wow. And look at this, the indecision and the questions that I imagine Team Norway asking each other now are similar to what we've just done. What's left in the hand?
Yeah.
What do we die do? What do we need to silence? Do we actually want the Doomsayer to go off so that they can't push damage with their minions?
Whoa, 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 whoa. You don't have time. You don't have time, guys. If you wanted to... Hunter Ace looks upset with this outcome. NTR looked like he leant forward and tried to take action with the Spellbreaker, but they just didn't have time to do it. And now with Antonidas and the discounted spells, cheap Fireball on the following turn, this Flame Geyser pushes too. Even a Blood Reaver Gul'dan only brings him up to 14 now.
Yeah. And even the extra 1-2 on board, pushing a little bit of extra damage. You can't argue that, and they are already
They've got
roping.
the disconnect rope now because they took no action on the previous turn whatsoever. That's something that I've never seen factor into a competitive Hearthstone game.
Hooked Reaver as a taunt is the best outcome?
Yeah, I mean, Norway...
They can't heal for enough damage that Antonidas does, so they have to taunt.
Yeah, Norway are dead here. They just don't know it because that Fireball on the left-hand side of China's hand is randomly generated. So they're trying to get out of range of the one Fireball that they know their opponent has, which, with this hand, they can theoretically do.
Yeah. I don't understand this game of Hearthstone, Sol, but it does excite me.
Oh, it's been great, though.
Almost out of time.
Nope. Norway's #1 enemy right now. They are going to Homunculus and play a heal. Okay, so they heal for 2. Going up to 9, sorry. I can't count. 11. I'm counting the 5 damage, but it doesn't matter. Because regardless of the minions, regardless of everything else, China takes a win with one of the most unconventional mage decks I have ever seen.
A round of applause, I think.
And taking down Norway.
Somewhat in sarcasm coming out from, I believe, Zorkthar there from Team Norway.
This is Odd Warrior, and again, Hunter Ace is like, okay, we did Quest Mage yesterday.
Yeah.
We're going to do Shoulda What today, and how confident are you in this one, Sol?
Not very. They, I'm going to double check.
Be honest.
I'm going to double check because I'm only going on Norway's word right now, which they could be trolling me, but they said they don't play Azalina in their warrior, which, yeah, they don't. And Azalina is a factor that's mattered in varying degrees, right? There was a patch recently that made Azalina copy any enchantments or mana cost discounts or increases on your opponent's hand. So it used to be that you could wait until they'd done all their Shudderwalk things and got a handful of 1-mana Shudderwalks, and then, yeah, you know, you'd be able to play the Azalina, and then you'd have hand problems and feel bad for yourself, and you'd have 99 Shudders, but the cost wasn't 1. But now, after the Azalina change, you do actually get all those 1 mana discounted Shudderwalks. Problem being, there is no Azalina in this deck for Hunter Ace, so that isn't even a factor. So it goes all the way back to what we saw yesterday. They're just going to have to smork them with Odd Warrior.
And they've shown they can do it. And also, Sol's now shown that he's worked on that since the change was announced.
That's admirable.
A few
No,
months ago.
100%. Full disclosure, because I hate it when people jack this stuff. That is 100% admirable, and I've stolen it from him shamelessly.
Yeah, I'm glad you added shamelessly on the end there. Because I saw the look on your face as you ripped that one out.
Yeah, it's good though, isn't it?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But okay, let's talk about these opening hands. Mind control tech's definitely not bad. At just some level of early pressure. Trunks and Team China not have the craziest opening themselves. The Farsight can always lead to some shenanigans. But, you know, maybe more of the standard opening outside of that Glacier Shard would be a little bit better.
There's little time.
Not pressing the hero power, deciding they don't need the totem and they can get a better use out of something else. No way now favoring the Gluttonous Ooze because Ooze just doesn't get value in this matchup at all, whereas Mind Control Tech might. So you just go through priority order of value as you play out these minions for aggression.
Yeah, this is going to be really the pattern of the matchup for Norway. They draw a minion, they play a minion. That's basically what it's going to be. They can curve this out with the Direhorn hatchling on the following turn, but you know, jokes and Jay-Z references aside, like going back to the question, I think this might even be a worse matchup now than the Quest Rogue is.
Right.
Because, you know, I'll put my cards on the table. I have not played new post-nerf Quest Rogue against Odd Warrior. I haven't played a single game of it. But listening to Norway's logic as to why they felt that matchup wasn't as unfavored as it used to be, they made a lot of great points, as you'd expect them to. Generally because they go so slowly, and their pressure, even like post-quest, is usually just 1 or 2 4/4s now. They can't really explode onto the board. That their kill turn is actually now much, much later than Shudderwock's is against you. So Shudderwock being able to go that much faster to get the job done, this might even be a worse matchup for the Odd Warrior than the one we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that I feel like even with the removal of Giggling Inventor from Quest Rogue, that the deck is now more sort of value and long-term based because they can't just pull out the kills because they don't have minions that stick as well. But look at this matchup. I do wonder...
Oh, big yikes.
Yeah, that's rough.
Double low roll. Yep, 3-2-2.
Let's just check that in an instant replay of yes, they whiffed.
China, just in case you weren't salty enough, observer, bang, hold that. Yeah.
Have a look at this. I will say, though, with the way a few of these games have played out with Odd Warrior, is it time, maybe we squeeze it in before the expansion next month, is it time where there are just a couple of aggressive tools dropped in Odd Warrior? Maybe
aggressive hattles.
I like it. Maybe not full Hatul, but, you know, to a certain extent, just dropping in a couple of just decent, more aggressive cards. Because, for example, Direhorn actually is a decent card to get someone down because of the high health.
I mean, Frothing Berserker is the first card that I want to bring up, right? It's a real possibility, and we've seen the nonsense that that card can still create in Hearthstone Global games. I think it was Purple, right? Who was it turn 5, turn 6 or something he ended up killing? A Quest Rogue with Frothing Berserkers. That's a card that is very low opportunity cost. It's a cheap card, so you play it at a point in the game where Odd Warrior really does nothing else.
And versus aggro, it's still good.
And a 2/4 body is still competitive against, you know, Fireflies and other things that aggressive decks play against you. The problem with, in my opinion, how Hatul and some other players have gone with putting, you know, Festeroot, Hulk and more expensive minions in there is you're trying to then play them in a period of the game where Odd Warrior actually has strong options. They're not just filling a gap in a place where they don't.
I do think it could happen when you go into a format where you could fight anything because of the way the pick spans and then the actual lineups work out. Like I said, we've seen this kind of matchup twice already in this tournament, and we're only like on day 2. So we'll see what happens with the evolution of this deck. Not got long to the expansion though. Pretty excited for that one as we did get to play with some of the cards this morning. It's actually pretty fun. But back in this game, the Glacial Shard's just going to freeze out this Mind Control Tech to be able to get a very nice trade. Still on the board with 1 health, and Direhorn number 3. It's just a relentless army of dinosaurs right now.
Yep.
Dr. Mind Control Tech. I mean, why not? Probably discussing whether to trade or how wide to go because of opponents' mind control techs, potentially.
And also Volcano. It's a massive commitment. If they drop another 3/6 down here, then that's 6 plus 4 plus 1 plus 4. That's 15 health exactly on their side of the board, and that's even before, you know, the other minions trade in and take more off. And that's just really their 3 biggest threats now, the Direhorn Hatchlings going down until they start drawing the Matriarchs.
We'll say with 3 Matriarchs in the deck, that likelihood is pretty high.
What if you just owl the mind control tech and either push with it or use it to trade, take care of the 3/3, and just consolidate your existing minions and push that way?
Would you want to push with it anyway? Because if you're worried about Volcano, then...
Well, then there's mind control tech again, right?
Oh, sure, that's true. Okay. Dr. IMB Cow.
Stop!
I love doing things with the sole purpose to annoy you.
Isn't everything you do with the sole purpose of annoying me?
90%.
Even when I'm not there.
I think 90%.
When you're at home with your girlfriend, not even streaming. That's just
where are we going with this, Sol?
Nowhere close.
Okay.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
You're the one who does that, not me.
What gets your mind out of the gutter?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway. Norway are just getting to the point where they don't have the longest term plan outside of drawing these Matriarchs. Because there's the mind control tech, there's the hatchling, but 2 brawls are just -2 cards in hand right now.
Yep.
Which is definitely unfortunate. Haggoth are going to come down, clear up most of this board, gain some armor, and also now give China more continued and a larger array of options going forward in the next few turns.
Second owl coming off the top is just not really what they wanted to see.
I think just Direhorn hero power.
I don't see anything. I mean, Direhorn mind control tech even. Like you need to giddy up, get something going. You can't hang around forever.
Because in all seriousness, even if they're cleared, the triple Direhorn is something, right? There's 3 Matriarchs in the deck, and those are very powerful singular minions to play.
They are absolute prehistoric units.
Is that 2 already today?
Is it?
I think so.
Oh.
Stop reusing old materials.
You're going to tell esports casters not to reuse old material. You're just going to have silence for 90% of every broadcast.
Dr. Mind Control Tech.
Well played. I'm glad you finally learned some comic timing. Well done.
Now this is looking a little bit awkward. Maybe you can argue that Grumble's just maybe enough to get down now. It is a big minion. You will gain a spell, but might just be a bit too slow, as I think China probably signified that Norway would probably just ignore it and just hit them in the face again. If you have Shudderwock, fine, but you don't have many things to actually make that Shudderwock scary right now outside of Glacial Shards.
Quickest turn Norway have played this entire tournament.
They might actually hold the record for the quickest and slowest turn of the tournament now.
Yeah. I didn't know, there was so much going on, I didn't even really get a chance to talk about it in the last game, but I talked yesterday about how teams were expressing the idea, don't touch the mouse until we made a decision. We actually saw a kind of undiscussed downside of that in the previous game, where if you don't take any action, any mechanical input during a turn, and just let the turn completely rope out, the game client then treats you as disconnected for the next turn.
You are AFK.
So you get the turbo rope. That's actually something that you need to think about.
And the problem is, it's not only that, well, the turbo rope stops if you play something. It's like, right, but you have to play something, which means you have to commit to something in the game. Stonehill Defender, not bad, mainly because it's just a 2-for-1 minion, and at this kind of mana, full mana, you're going to be able to pick something very likely that is playable this turn. Only Direhorn seems like a why not option for me.
Yeah.
It locks out the hero power, but again, who cares? Not Norway, I imagine.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling ornery, Raven.
You made my job very difficult, Sol. Very, very difficult.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, the Rusty Recycler and the Warrior, although you could argue more mana efficient, it just doesn't do the damage, right? You've seen from the way Norway are taking this game is they just want to get him. They just want to pile on as much damage and as many threats as possible to make China have to play inefficiently. The Norway Direhorn can get some nice things. The Death Rattle into the 1/1s. Not incredible, but not bad. A Divine Shield to help with a Lightning Storm, for example. All of this can get some work done. Maybe just more health. to beat the second volcano. Ooh, they're considering Owl here.
Yeah, I wasn't considering really the taunt would even be playable this turn.
Okay.
Because this 6 damage is just so much to miss. And IMB Cal has 0 targets in the matchup. It's why the last time I suggested it, I was like, well, maybe we just use an IMB Cal here, because getting rid of freeze is probably the best thing you can do with it in this matchup. Besides, like, owling through a chain gang for pretty much the same effect, right? Push damage where it's being denied.
And the frustration with that is you would still need a secondary attack to kill the other chain gang, which means you might end up just not getting as much done. So yeah, if that was, 3 mana, 2/1, deal 6 to your opponent's face, well, that's a card I'd like to see in the new expansion, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah.
Give me some aggro cards. But now, though, there is an option, and maybe there's enough of a window of chain gang into Grumble, and then just commit next turn. Maybe that's too risky. Oh, never mind.
Well, hello there.
Scrap that. Hagatha's got me all mixed up. The hex seems pretty good to me.
What's a frog like you doing in a tavern like this?
Whoa, okay. Lightning Storm's going to clear off 3 of this damage. Do a little bit to the Matriarch, but not too important because there is that Hex. Now Matriarch number 2.
I actually love this from China. I think potentially one of the places where Bulgaria slipped up yesterday as they were defeated in a very, very strong matchup against Odd Warrior is they started to feel the pressure. Right?
Yes.
They believed that the pressure was real, and it isn't. But that's your job as the Odd Warrior, to make your opponent feel like you're going to kill them. You're not going to kill them. It's not going to happen. China are at 20 here. There's only 6 in play this way. They didn't overreact and think that needed hexing immediately. They're using their health total as a resource, and they can do so all the way down to basically 2 damage out of range of what is on board, right? Because all that gets added in terms of damage is Super Collider. Right. That's basically it.
Also, as well, with Electra in hand, they are 1 healing rain away from a complete health reset, as it will take you, even with damaged minions on the board. A double healing rain often takes you back to full health, and then full health after the warriors already use the Direhorns, already use the Matriarchs. You kind of run out of stuff outside of the Dr. Boom shenanigans that you can discover mechs with.
Right.
Untargetable for this Direhorn here. But again, with now double chain gang.
Yeah, this is just a load up your Shudderwock kind of turn. Get all these chain gangs down, potentially the MCT as well.
It's not a bad one either. Maybe not amazing this turn, but the freeze effect on the minions is going to be good to just say, actually, no, you don't get to attack this turn. Right. And you've used double owl, so not going to sneak out any more damage.
Engaging TC-130, ventral dislocator.
Oh, new win condition.
I'm not entirely sure they need it, but it's good to have.
Yeah,
this way we have it.
It just means they bloodless first, and then the Shudderwock kills them slightly faster. I mean, there is Electra in the hand, so...
I must decide.
Oh, Electra double bloodlust. Now you're speaking my language.
So Brawl Dynomatic is a guaranteed clear, and also has the benefit of not killing the Matriarch if it survives, which is actually pretty nice. And what else are you doing return? I don't think you can afford to just drop 2 minions that die to the board.
Right. I think we're likely to, as long as the 7/2 dies, which it does. Ooh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, drop the Matriarch.
Right,
then. Let's
but
go.
I think that was also the case if any of the opposing minions survived that weren't the 7/2 though. Although I guess if one of the 2/3 taunts survives, you'd then have to like Dynamatic it on the next
when
turn
it hits your
when
own,
you have a 6/9 in play. So yeah, maybe not.
Yep. Also, as well, a 3/4 is just kind of difficult to get rid of. It feels just as sticky as a Matriarch in terms of just the fact it will survive to attack the following turn. Not as much damage, of course, but I like the Dynamatic. But now I think, oh wait, just go for the Matriarch. I wonder if they're considering the fact that if they play Matriarch, then they make Dynomatic worse the turn after. but I don't think it's enough, right?
Yeah,
it's just too much.
I don't hear that argument. I don't think it's particularly worthwhile. Life drinker now being picked up. I think this was probably the biggest point of consternation for them, where they said, well, it's a 6/6 on board. We're adding another 9 health to that. That's a real feels bad, man, if they have a volcano to counter it. But at the end of the day, like, how else are they winning, right? Shut your eyes, make the biggest board that you have, and pretend they don't have it. That's your win condition at this point.
It is, and I think although we saw very obviously what the plan was, cards like Omega Assembly and Dr. Boom were not drawn this game, and those are the cards with those discovered mechs that can really power you forward and be able to play aggressively, because you get to pick the most aggressive option available to you. And now I think this might be the final nail in a many-nailed coffin.
Yes.
Available now, as we can see Shudderwock's there. The Grumble's already come down. There are so many chain gangs been played this game, and the Life Drinker was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, there was Overload coming out on this turn, though, so the following turn for China will most likely just be a hand dump, just get everything out of their hand that doesn't overload them as possible, and then try and follow that up on the next turn with that Shudderwock, which is all but guaranteed at this point.
Okay. Trying to do quick maths of Electra Bloodlust Lightning Bolt. You just gotta check, right? Because maybe they just lethal them next year.
7 plus 18, 28? Yeah. Not quite.
What a way to win a game.
If you'd have asked me to guess, I would have said a lot less than 28, though. So yeah, it was worth counting.
Maybe even Hex this turn. Because the problem with dumping your hand with minions is that Haggath's live, and then you just gain a card back anyway, so you're not really dumping anything. But, I mean, Hex, just to get rid of it and push damage. So maybe, if worst case scenario somehow magically happens, you do have that Bloodlust.
Yeah, I mean, they just need to play cards, and those cards should be spells, because minions don't actually empty from their hand, so...
That's what I'm saying, like, why not? What are you hexing this game? You win.
Exactly.
Like, just hex it and go.
In the successful world, this is the penultimate turn of the game.
Right.
So potentially you could have even just double hexed, just made Super Frog, and just because that got 2 cards out of your hand instead of 1, right?
And it'll become a toad?
Yeah. That's exactly how frogs work.
Yeah.
I must decide.
Just ancestral healing. Get it gone.
Yeah, I mean, they're lucky that they got a spell that was so easy to potentially throw out of their hand, but they're going to choose to hold on to it. I guess they don't need any more hand space than what they have. What they have is plenty at this point. Although that's not,
it's not
true,
because
is it?
Shudderwock won't bounce.
Yeah, exactly. They have 4 minions in play.
Yeah. The best part is they could have actually lightning bolted as well, because they can still play Shudderwock, and that one extra play of Shudderwock doesn't really change anything, right?
I guess, yeah. It's kind of true.
Well, they have that second hex just to pass over this Lich King. I'd just love to see a Lightning Bolt, Ancestral Healing, just throw it all out there.
Just dump some spells.
Yeah, that's what. But you also don't really want to fort Lightning, because then you definitely can't play Shudderwock next turn.
Right.
Unless they're just okay with that.
Alternatively, you could just trade these minions into the Lich King and just go for your Shudderwock turn this turn, right? Like, get the Ancestral Healing out of your hand anyway, trade off, and then you do get the guaranteed bounce, as long as, of course...
Or Electra Bloodlust, go! Clean trades. I mean... Yeah. It lines up pretty well,
no,
I'm just saying.
I'm just laughing at how dumb it is, but it is actually really good this turn.
Double Ancestral Healing, perfect.
You're not wrong. That's great. I am a big fan of this turn.
Oh, yes. Just getting slapped around by 9 attack 3 and 4 drops.
I tell you what this is. This is Lee in his infinite confidence saying, guys, this matchup's too easy. We're going to win without playing Shudderwock, okay?
Pretty sure they could. Oh, maybe not with those draws. Wait. I'm so confused right now. I'm just looking at a meat wagon in the hand, and I'm like, wait, when did that happen? Whereas, of course, Omega Assembly at 10 mana does give you all of the discover options. You don't have to pick one. You get all 3, and meat wagon is, of course, a mech. But it just threw me off for a second. I looked at the hand, I was like,
Yeah, and that's not the Dynomatic Ziliax roll that we saw someone get yesterday, which was absolutely absurd. That is meat wagon. Not really what they're looking for.
Yeah. Faithful Lumin, though, maybe highest vote for cutest card of the set.
It's up there.
Can't argue with that.
Yep.
I guess they just drop Dynomatic and then just say, well, GG. We can buff the meat wagon. Oh, are they actually just sat there thinking, wait, so what can we pull from meat wagon that wins us this game?
Very probably, yes. They need some kind of very, very strange win condition.
So they can actually... Why aren't we playing Shudderwalk?
No.
I was just going to say, the actual buff on the meat wagon helps Kelsoth trade away. And then you have, what, 6? 1, 2, 3... Yeah, you'd have 7 cards in hand, which means you get 3, Shudderwalks back. Which is fine. You know, which is enough to win the game next turn.
I mean, yes, in theory. You get as many Shudderwalks back up to 3 as succeeds.
Right, okay.
You know.
You want to be, logical about it, so then fine.
Alright, this is a spell dump turn, which I don't mind, because this has been my problem up until this point. They haven't been just going for the Shudderwalk, and they also haven't just been dumping spells out of their hand.
Yeah.
They've been in this weird middle ground.
Playing a game of Hearthstone.
Yeah. Now there's a Manatide on the board.
Yeah, I was going to say hand up turn. I'll play this card that draws more cards. Did they forget they played Grumble?
There's no way. It's worth remembering as well that there's the Hagatha inside the Shudderwalk as well, which can, you know, depending on sequencing, clear out bodies off the board for you as well before the bounce happens.
Do you just get Frostmourne Cook in this turn? Because every other turn, combination of cards feels weak because Norway are in an unfortunate position where they can't really play 2 of the cards that isn't Shield Slam together.
Yeah,
whereas Frostmourne kills a minion that you can use to attack maybe later on and also deals 10 damage when your opponent's on 17.
Yeah. Essentially, I think if you play Baku here, perhaps, you can then use the Frostmourne next turn to take out the Taunt, and then your Baku pushes damage.
China have just meted Norway. They're like, they think we don't have Shudderwalk by playing the Manatide.
They think they don't have
and then
Shudderwalk.
they shield slam the Manatide for us. Aha!
In a bizarre turn of events, Norway have made the correct read that Shudderwalk is not in hand, and yet it is.
How long can this
They're just playing ahead of the game right now.
Yeah.
Can this go on?
No one was prepared for this.
Oh, okay. I take it all back. No, I take it all back. This is actually smart. I forgot, because of all the Chain Gang bounces, I thought they'd maxed out all the natural Chain Gangs in their deck, and they haven't. They still have Chain Gangs in their deck, and they still have Zola in their deck. So they are just saying, hey, we've got this game won. Like, good luck killing us before we draw the rest of our deck. We are going to make sure that it is literally 1% chance that our Shudderwalk fails, because that's how favored we are in this position. It's perfectly reasonable.
Okay. Fine.
It's boring and somewhat frustrating, but it's perfectly reasonable.
Because let's bear in mind, just to remind anyone, if you know, you got the optimum deck tracker in your mind, is that the Chain Gangs were bounced as well by Grumble.
Yeah, no,
so
it's
not like it's just one Chain Gang that's been played and we're
There's
like,
a lot.
but just play Shudderwalk.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There were a lot, but China's saying we want more.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's still on me. With all the bounces of the Chain Gangs, I'd assumed that both of the natural ones were played. And you know what they say about assumptions, Raven?
Yep. They're not good.
They're terrible, in fact. Yeah. Alternatively, they could just roll another Bloodlust, and that would be way funnier.
It would be way funnier. They're literally like, oh, we just don't need Shudderwalk to win.
Yeah.
There, we have faith. And how do they have to, like, empty their hand again? And the problem... It means that they aren't casting Shudderwock next turn if they have to empty their hand, because they have one of the heaviest overloads I've seen for a while.
Yeah.
In double fork lightning, a lightning bolt, and a volcano.
So the question becomes now, if they were going to go down this line the whole time, which they definitely were. Again, that's on us. We just misidentified what their plan was. Whether they should have ever played Hagatha, because going for this long in Hagatha form and just playing out every minion in your deck, essentially drawing every card in your deck, and then having to play them. The more and more time you spend in Hagatha form, the more difficult it becomes to empty your hand, because the cheap spells, the easy-to-use spells that you get rid of those, but you start to build up a collection of difficult-to-use spells, and they just start to get more and more and more of them as time goes on.
Yeah, and it looks like China just saying, right, let's go dump everything possible, even though we're going to be overloaded for 1 million next turn. But they're going to say, right, we're not dead next turn, it's impossible. Yeah. So then we'll kill them the turn after that we can play. I imagine this is just everything, or at least the Dynamatic and then into Zola to try and Dynamatic again to clear off some board, but you've got to think Norway are playing for the 0.5% chance that something happens this game that allows them to win.
I really want them to just kill them with minions. It'd be so good.
New version of Shudderwock Shaman. It's just called Shaman. Done.
They're nearly there. This deck beat Quest Road yesterday, and China are just killing it with minions in Shudderwock Shaman.
And a lot of spells.
Sure.
Bloodlust. Off this glacial shot.
Yep, seems like the best target to me. They'll just be recapping exactly what's in that Frostmourne, whether perhaps they want the Frostmourne to be bust open because they get like a perfect volcano clear on the following turn to be able to deal with it, but still feels like something you'd rather delay if you have the option, right?
I also feel like the following turn is Shudderwock, right? So why not mess around? Maybe. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Easily playable now. And even just those two Ancestral Healings should be enough to open up space easily for Shudderwock to be playable. Or should I say safely playable is more correct.
Yeah. Norway fishing for answers, but their deck doesn't really hold them at this point.
Nope.
This game has been a slow descent into misery for Norway ever since their pressure was relinquished. There was basically those army of 3/6s and the eventual 6/9s that came out behind them, but once those were dealt with, they were really just waiting for China to do whatever they wanted. And China, in their infinite wisdom, have decided to wait as long as possible. And to give them credit, they've ended up in a position where they've maximized the percentage of their Shudderwock going off, and their hand size is now at an all-time low since they played the Hagatha. So the extra time that they've spent here, just taking extra turns here, extra turns there, they've now put themselves in the best possible position to make sure this Shudderwock goes on.
Yeah, they're going to make a pretty powerful Ziliax form, in that that's now a 4/5 rush light field taunt that gains armor when it gets damaged.
Yeah.
So that's pretty decent, but is it decent enough in this matchup? I don't think so, because finally we get to see the Shudderwock land, and that should be the end for Norway in this game, as there is one chain gang done.
The ooze broke the Frostmourne, and then the Hagatha swept the summoned minions. Beautiful. The most cooperative Shudderwock you have ever seen in your life. And that's game.
Yeah.
1 mana copy in hand, 9 mana copy in hand. That is 100% loot from this point forward, even if Norway were able to full clear this position.
Yep. Team China don't even have to play the one this turn. If they don't want to, they can just wait and be ultimately safe no matter what. Because as you said quite rightly, it is a 100% guaranteed pickup. It's just going to be like, now we'll play Ancestral Healing.
Hey, I think they're going to play the shutter here as well. That's getting a card out of their hands so they can get more of these shutters back. Yep. Ooh.
Okay, they got the chain gang beforehand.
It could have got messy. There was a very, very specific sequence there that made that get a little bit messy.
One thing I will say is Huntress's warrior is extremely frozen and cold right now because they're not attacking for like 20 turns. That is going to be the game. And China go 2-0 up over Norway with, let's be honest, the safest...
Like sometimes they get like a YOLO Void Lord out against an aggro deck and are able to win that way, but I was expecting a little bit more Zoo than we did see, so it's no great surprise to me here for some of the players on China's team are well known for favoring aggressive strategies that they are bringing the Zoo.
Okay, well, let's get right into it. Could this be the last game of this series? Well, maybe if China continue dominating it, but Norway are not going to be any pushovers. And a deck we didn't talk about too much is Clone Priest, and this deck is a very strange one. It works unlike any other deck, but it's closest to Big Priest of old.
Yeah.
In that you try to generate card draw and a lot of minions, and then you just resurrect the scary ones, and then along the fact of you can like double res and then be able to just kill them with Mind Blast because of the combination of Velen and Malygos that is quite easy to get on the board late game.
And it goes to show just how wacky the Quest Mage was that we didn't really cover this deck going into it. Like, oh yeah, Clone Priest, that's perfectly normal. Now let's talk about this Quest Mage. But it is still quite an unusual deck, of course, popularized quite heavily by Asmodai and a few other people, and now taking its place in the competitive scene as well. But it's going to have a pile of good old-fashioned minions to go up against, and as you were explaining the Clone Priest, I was about to say, this hand is one Voodoo Doctor away from chaos, and the Voodoo Doctor obliged straight off the top.
Yep. This is going to be a tough one because the problem here right now is Spirit Lash does not really do you that many favors as you heal, and that will buff the Light Warden. So maybe Shadow Word Pain this turn to kill the Light Warden. Then you take 8. And then you have to, what? Shadow Visions into a magical card that does not exist yet to try and win the game. And I was going to talk about a pillar of Clone Priest and the Psychic Screams. You normally try and stay alive till 7 while you're making some small minions and summoning things. Then you can Psychic Scream and then go for your big board turn. That's normally how a game works out. There is no time to Psychic Scream. There just isn't. They're just going to be dead soon. And with the addition of the card in hand being Kobold Librarian, that means it can be Librarian into tap this turn, which gets them even more value going forward.
Librarian finds them a second Light Warden, which, they don't play the Light Warden, which is now huge for Norway because they have the Holy Smite to be able to clear off the Light Warden, and that gives them freedom now to Spirit Lash, which they wouldn't have been able to do if that second Light Warden was in play. Can totally understand China's line because their hand is so low on cards right now. But they do have that Solarium to fall back on.
Yeah, I think they might be afraid of Thalnos Spirit Lash because that just blows out almost everything on the board and clears 2 Light Wardens. Which against Priest, these are the threats, as you can see. The heal going up, but all his smites there to clear it off, and a pain. So now suddenly, Norway have chilled the game out a bit, I'll say. But still, you know, if any deck can keep chugging away, it's definitely a Warlock deck that has life tap and a lot of cheap dudes to play. Right. I think killing... This is... The mental hurdle you have to get over when playing against Clone Priest is your opponent could now just summon those back.
Yep.
So you feel like, should I even kill them? But yes, because you make them have to have the res and the summons, as opposed to just leaving a elemental on the board that makes their next turn always more powerful.
Also, summoning them back costs them resources. They don't get to do it for free. They have to pay the mana to do that, as opposed to just having it on the board and being able to spend, you know, a bunch of mana on discounted spells with a Radiant Elemental.
Because there are moments, maybe in the later game, for example, we'll see them right now, where Velen, to be used efficiently, has to be played first because it has to die. Right. And the issue there is if you play Velen, your opponent has to consider whether they kill it. It's a lot of health to remove. If they don't kill it, well, Velen's on the board. If they do kill it, sometimes Velen's on the board.
Oh, this is very slow from China. I would have strongly considered in China's position there, potentially just throwing out the Leroy that turn, yeah.
just seen a Spirit Lash, you've just seen a Pain, not that it directly affects Leroy, but you've seen a lot of removal, is my point, along with the Shadow Visions.
Just Leroy, trade one of the imps into the 2-2, trade one of the imps into a 1-1, and just leave one power on board contesting your 6-2. Because that was a pass.
Yes.
From China.
Luckily, that was also kind of a pass from Norway. They did not have the coin Shadow Essence, which is when things start getting really nutty in this clone deck. Gonna tap and go for the Chain Gang. Not as many options as possible here. They have to be wary though. Now you are scared of just, okay, what does Psychic Scream mean? And you have to consider that every single turn for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Because that is the power card that will allow Norway to potentially take a win here.
China are very close to a monumental 3-0 victory here. 6 damage in play, 10 from hand available with Leroy Soulfire.
And they have the Solarium to fill out the gaps as well.
Yep.
So I think it's fairly likely you'll see Solarium next turn.
Is that Flame Imp or Soulfire?
Flame Imp.
Okay.
Soulfire would have been very spicy. What do you think though? Solarium just to see what's cooking? Maybe you can have a Fungomancer, for example, for instant damage. And if you whiff, you can just play a Dreadlord.
Yeah, I like the Fungomancer argument. Fungomancer is a very good argument.
If you whiff, you're fine, right? You just play the other stuff in your hand, and you still set up Leroy Soulfire next turn.
Yeah, that sounds smart. Oh, Soul Infusion on the Leroy as well.
And it can even, you can Soul Infusion and still play the heal and the Happy Cool and a Flame Imp.
Yeah.
And then you basically say, so, that Psychic Scream you want, do you have it or not?
There's the buff going down on Leroy, and now there is a ton of power coming out here.
And suddenly the reach from hand is 12 now.
Yes.
Because of that Soul Infusion on the Leroy.
Yeah, and I think you absolutely all in against Psychic Scream here, because even if they do Psychic Scream, it's their whole turn, and you just get to redevelop again.
Yeah, just go again.
No extra minion, just the Enchanter and the Happy Ghoul.
I guess this is more than enough. You've got 12 from hand.
It's playtime.
And you know there can't be any Velen Heal shenanigans.
Okay.
Now this could be the final turns here. This has to be what? Obsidian Statue?
Coin gallery.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I actually forgot about the second coin. Well, enjoy a lot of 1/1s. Obsidian Statue, as I mentioned, is there, but it will only lifesteal for 1 and kill 1 minion.
Do you get the Ziliax, though?
Yep.
They have to get through that Lich King as well, which takes up 2 attacks now. Oh, my. So 2 goes in, 2 goes in. They're at 16. That's 3-6 Leroy Soulfire. I believe this is still lethal. Oh, Ziliax as well. I didn't count the Ziliax.
Right, but you can still double, right? Still double, well, potentially double Soulfire.
Yes. So 2 goes in, 2
or you
goes
just
in.
play the funny play of Dreadlord Pass.
3 goes in. It's healed for 2. He's at 17. So that's 3. 11 with the buffed Leroy. 15 with Soulfire. So it would take double Soulfire to get this done.
Yeah. It would tickle me to see Dreadlord Pass, though. That's just a very funny answer to a cloning gallery. And they're going for it. And I don't blame him. This could be for a spot in the finals. If Soulfire is not discarded, when they click, we'll find out very quickly.
The Dreadlord's blank because
it's green, and that's going to be the win.
That is the game. 3-0 for China. Putting pay to the haters. They are in the grand finals of Hearthstone Global Games, and if you're trying to have an argument about who is the best Hearthstone country, the country versus country tournament is a pretty good place to make your statement.
It really is. After a not fun year in other competition of HGT as the biggest example for members of Team China, they're really just showing them that no, we can do this, and they take down one of the most powerful country-based teams in the world right now with a 3